Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. We've spoken to Henrike before. She's the expert on equal pay. Learn more. There is an event coming up March 17. Don't miss out. Sign up. It's live streaming. So let's hear from Henrike. Thank you so much for giving us all the tips and tricks in your field. We need more of you.
Well, we have this new thing that we are doing at the moment. We started October last year. We went out with the certification, which is called the Universal Fair Pay Check, which is something that grew over the time since we found it, but it sort of then came out and we say, okay, we certify companies. And this certification, the piloting companies that we have, the first 6 ones, they will get their awards on March 17, which is in a couple of days. And you can attend and just enjoy. That's one thing, because first step to take part is, of course, to get the feeling of what do they do? Do I actually want to take part? Who is this Henrike and the FPI? So you can have a look at that. It's very around the corner to just see what we do. And I think the most important thing about this certification idea that we get companies to actually do it. Because the idea behind the certification is grown on in a way that it's something you haven't seen before. It's the hardest certification you can think of. It's harder than any law out there. If a company actually goes through this certification, they won't care about new laws in countries. They just won't care because they know they will have done enough to be sure that they pay fairly and they will fulfill any law. That starts off with like 3 steps, and the middle steps of the 3 steps is closing the adjusted pay gap. And that means 0. That means plus minus 1 to have the mathematical flexibility. But if you take, for example, the Swiss law in Switzerland, it says companies of a certain size and whatever need to close this gap below 5%. Now, the adjusted pay gap below 5% for me personally is like, oh, then you might as well leave it. Because if you have the unexplained rest, like we call it, still there, it's something you just need to adapt wages because there are unfair pieces in there. Taking that as an example, just to show it's really, in a way, hard certification. But on the other hand, it's very easy to do, which makes it a possibility to be really fast and to get companies to pay fairly very fast if they do this step, which all starts with an analysis of your pay data. And each and every one of us can actually talk more about money, which is sort of the thing. You just need to talk more about money. You need to know what your worth is. You need to know what's happening out there. And you need to know why pay analysis is sort of step number 1 to pay fairly. And then maybe depending on where you are situated in a company or whatever, you give the push for them to do this step. And even if they don't have to do the certification, but they have to do a pay analysis, and then you certify or don't, I don't really care about that. That we've done because it's the big process that gets people to see it and to show employees also, look, they have at least done it. And then they have even reached closing the gaps. But it's all aligned with SDGs or ESG or you name it. All these are connected. You can take part by just sort of spreading the word because we're not a network to become a member of. That's not what we are. But you can join the community and I
used to be in human resources and what I've heard, and I'm also teaching a class in global talent management at New York University. And I think in the state of New York, and I want to say Massachusetts, you're not allowed to ask what was your previous salary, because I think that makes it also unfair pay. Like, let's say I start a job, human resources manager, entry level 50,000. And if the people know that I made 50,000, why should they give me 100,000? So now when you come in and you are, let's say you apply for a position as a director of human resources, typically that pays 100,000 or more, you should be getting that amount. And I think in a way it's good that you are not allowed to ask, because if you look at, let's say, women, they had children, they didn't work, so they're missing out on, oh, you made 50,000. Why should we give you 100,000 now? We give you 60.
Exactly. That's very important. And it's very good that this was changed. And I hope it's going to be changing all over the places wherever it's still there. But I would go a step further. I really don't like this question of, oh, what would you like to earn? What have you earned before, or what do you want? Yeah. All the wrong question. Yeah. And I tell people that ask me, or when women say, how should I react? And I say, well, you don't need to learn how to negotiate. It's another thing I don't like, but where I say, okay, maybe you should respond with another question and ask, well, what am I worth to your company? What's my value? What's the value of this position? Or if it's a bigger company, you might even be able to ask, well, this position is not a unique one. I know it's like about maybe 10 people in. What do they get? What's the average pay that the people on this position get in your company? And just turn the question around, because I don't really think it's okay. If a company asks that question, that in a way tells you that they don't have a clear system about how much they are paying. Because if they have one, if you have a clear system and a clear grading structure or whatever, so many different ways, but if you have one, why should you ask that question? It's like, I can guess and I come in there cheaper, but then you want the people to be able to talk about money, and then they talk to each other and they find out it's different. Oh, well, why? And in Germany, we have this crazy named law, the Entgelttransparenzgesetz. So it's the transparency law. This law actually gives you the opportunity to ask a question about the median wage of a group of 6 other people that have like sort of the same or similar job. And lots of people don't ask that question because they say, oh, what do I do with that response? And I say, well, you can ask the question a little different in the way that you ask for, why do I get what I get? Yeah. What are the value pieces inside the 1,000 euros? Like, is it 300 for this and 400 for whatever? What is it? And they have to answer that too. The HR people or whatever who get those questions will start to think, and they will start to look. And they will end up doing analysis of their pay structures. Then they will find out about some gaps. And then they will go the step, which I really like. They will start to implement measures and know what they actually do. Because if you ask a company today, oh, you have great measures for diversity and whatever, so many measures. How much money do you spend for that per year? Oh, then you get big amounts. Oh, and do you know what actually the effect of these measures is? What changes? Can you measure what they actually do? Yeah, you can't. No. Yeah, the universal fair pay check, and you will only implement measures that actually lead to results, to closing a gap, because you have the KPI and you have like the figure that you are checking.
I spoke to a Swiss colleague of mine, and she says in Switzerland, I don't know if you know that, they have a website where you can go on Ministry of Bundesamt for whatever. You can put in the position, and at the end, she said they're asking male or female, and she recommends that you put in male because they have seen if you put in female, you get a lower salary. What is your thought on that?
I don't. Well, actually, usually I would think that you put that in to find out what you usually would get. I don't know exactly what this website does, but in Germany, you have another similar one, which is called the Lohnspiegel, where people put in their data as well. And you can sort of find out what people would usually earn in certain positions. It's sort of for information. And of course, the people give in their real wages and their real gender. And in the end, they see over all the hundreds of thousands of data sets that they have that women tend to get less on certain positions. And the great thing about that is that if you look at it and you would say, okay, assistant of C-level, whatever, sub Now you get the amount that you would probably earn in a company of a size of 500 employees or whatever. And you will see, oh, a male will get this, a female will get this. And you see the difference. And of course, you don't want to get less. But I think it's very important to have these websites where you see this, because what this makes, or what this should make, is the next time you get the question, how much do you want to earn? You will, of course, name the amount that you've seen on the male side, no matter if you're male or female. Or you respond by asking, what am I worth?
There is so much more work to do.
Yeah, I thought you would mean the website of Logip, of the tool, because the Swiss also have this tool for companies to do the pay analysis. Okay. And it's a free tool. Companies can just use it for free on the website. It's in multiple languages. It's for small to big companies. And they have now the laws that make you use it, where they sort of force you to do a pay analysis. I don't like the 5% thing in the law, but anyway, the good thing is they make you do an analysis. That's Swiss. That's great. Okay. UK says be transparent on your figures. Another great one. Iceland has like the equal pay standard, like this management standard. So they're all pieces which are really good and make it very round. And we just waiting actually for what came out today. I think in a few days we have the full paper from the EU Richtlinie for equal pay. This is something we should all take a look at, and there are some things in there that we really like at FPI, where we said that's what we told them. We want transparency, and now they're doing exactly that.
And tell us about your book.
My book. Let's talk about money.
Okay,
that's a title. Well, it's in German. Über Geld spricht man. It came out last year. It's a year young now, and I say young because it's still so fresh, because it's sort of jumped into the COVID black hole, like I sometimes call it. And it hasn't lost anything of actuality. The issue is just not moving so fast. And it actually tells the story of fair pay in a way. It has lots of examples for companies, for everybody. It's actually written for everybody, which is something the publisher at the beginning didn't like or understand. It says, who are you aiming at? Who are the people you're writing it for? And I say, well, everybody. That's not possible. And I said, well, I think it's possible. It is for everybody, because it has sort of all the sides, depending on, are you in a company working, or do you own a company, or are you a politician or academia? It's all the stories about equal pay and how we can actually solve it, ending with a handful of checklists on what you can do yourself, depending of which group you sort of count yourself into, and give you like a few tips at hand to say how you can take part. And there's one thing which is very clear, no matter which group you count yourself into, the first bullet point of every checklist is identical, and it reads, let's talk about money, because it always starts, we need to talk more about this. If you ask people around yourself, like once you've listened to the podcast, you go out and talk to friends, and then you suddenly ask maybe, okay, what do you earn? How much? Why? What do you do? You get an understanding on what work is worth, and what certain things that you do are worth. And so many people have no clue what their parents earn for a living, or their aunt or friends, people very near to you. Lots of couples don't even know, married couples. There's statistic on this as well, that married couples don't know. And it's like, well, I say, this is so crazy. And it's very cultural and very different, of course, in countries. But it's a beginning of being treated fairly in the sense of money, if it's not a secret anymore, if it's something normal.
I think in the US, we're not allowed to ask each other about how much do you make. I think that's one of the, talking about harassment, if somebody asks you how much you make and you don't want to say, I think you can go to the company and say you have been harassed. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was one of the tricky topics, and maybe that's why it resulted like you cannot ask anymore at an interview, how much have you previously made? It could be a combination. I would have to research a little more.
Yeah, it's interesting because in Germany you had something very similar, but they have been a few, not laws, cases. There've been a few cases on the topic, and now it's been deleted from contracts. Usually in Germany, you used to have in a contract a phrase saying like you are not allowed to talk about. And this phrase is not legal anymore, but it's still inside contracts and old contracts. And it's even coming up in new contracts. And if people don't know about it being illegal, we need a lot more communication about, we need to talk more about money. People know that this is an illegal phrase. They don't have to sign a contract with this phrase.
We're learning something. if you start somewhere, so you're the trailblazer, you set examples, and you said Iceland is very good. We know they're fantastic when it comes to equal pay. We just need to see the examples and then we can follow suit. But it takes time. And I also wish it could be before we say goodbye to this earth, right? But I saw numbers that it takes like more than 200 years to have equal pay. No.
No, because you know what? These numbers, I mean, you don't believe statistics that you haven't touched yourself before anyway. So that's one point. But the other thing about these statistics is that what they do is they look at the past, they say how much it has taken to come to this point, and then they launch this into the future, and it takes again so and so long. But this is completely stupid and out of range because the things that are being implemented are so different now. The legislation, the speed that you get, like in Germany, they set up some years ago the minimum wage. Things like that have a very fast effect. If those kind of measures are implemented and the EU paper comes and more transparency measures come, you will see a very fast evolution. And it's different because of the implemented measures to the last 100 years. Yeah. The last 100 years, we're not going in this way anymore. So it's like, it can be done really fast. If you look at companies that concrete the universal fair pay check, if I just look at this and I take a company and I think, okay, they will be slow, like they will take the analysis and they need to implement, then they would do the first step to close adjusted pay gap. And they will need maybe nearly a year at least because they need to sort of go through one wage round and maybe they only do that once a year. So, okay, you have that time. Then they look again and then they implement a handful of things. But they will need maybe another 2 years to close the other one. If you are really slow as a company, okay, put a year on top, let's make it 4, but it shouldn't last any longer. And if a company can do that, and some can do it even faster, we just need all the companies to do that.
This is fantastic. I think we end on this high note. There is hope. There is hope for equal fair pay for everybody.
Thank you, Susanne.
Thank you so much, Henrike. Good luck with everything. We want to make sure that we can follow that movement, and equal pay is so important for everybody. Take it from the Iron Woman. In the month of March, we have episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday with exciting women who are changing the world. Be part of it. Don't miss out. Take It From the Iron Woman is also a book where you can follow my journey with the global business coaching with the sports parallels. 26 marathon, 1 Ironman, 1 Kilimanjaro. Do I need to say more? Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.